Alright guys, ¿qué pasa? Welcome back to another Bleach Soul Resonance video. So today, I am going to guide you guys through everything you need to know in the game. Like literally, we're gonna try to cover every aspect of the game as far as my current progression level allows it. I'm currently at level 31, right? So yeah, let's actually jump into this. Now, this video is going to be for beginners, right? Even intermediate players, like everyone who just wants to know every aspect of the game, whether you're just thinking about starting with the game or you actually play in it, this video is going to be exactly for you. All right, now first things first, what is Bleach Soul Resonance? It's essentially a action RPG / real-time combat sort of game, right? You have different characters which you can acquire in the game. You can actually play different characters, right? Level these up, get, for example, also dupes of characters. There is a dupe system. You have character weapons which you can equip. You have your stamps, which is essentially accessories, right? You can activate a so-called character bonds, where if you collect specific characters, right, you're actually able to activate bonds which supply you with continuous buffs for specific characters. You have a method of acquiring characters through something called a gacha system, right? So essentially it's very much comparable to something like say for example One Piece Fighting Path, for example. Yeah, like similar to those kind of games, right? You also have events which are going on at all times. You're able to participate like in special fights, for example, fighting against special opponents. You're also able to participate in time-based events. The good thing about this game is you also have a very good battle pass, actually, which allows you to actually gain free of charge, actually, like things like these tickets or in-game currencies which you need, right? So those are kind of things which you get. So all in all, it's a very good game for anime fans, especially if you're a fan of the Bleach genre, right? You have an open world, sort of a semi-open world, very similar to games like Honkai Star Rail, where you explore different areas, right? You're able to open up boxes and gather loot within the world as well, so this is going to be nice. So yeah, unlike any typical Bleach game we've seen so far. Right, now starting the game, we're gonna go over UI menus and stuff, right? So on the top right here you have sort of your main menu, right? From here you can go to your characters, you can go to the store, right? You can go to the section where you acquire characters, you have your friends section, craft, ranking, and so forth, right? So characters, you're gonna land here, you're gonna be able to select a character, for example, view character stats, weapons, skills, his dupes, which you have acquired, for example, and his accessories. There is also an interesting page which shows you how to build a character, what are the optimal recommended lineups for a character, and how to actually build a character, right? So that's that. Then you have your store where you're basically able to grab like offers, limited offers, and so forth, right? Always check this one out. You do have your gacha system where you're able to acquire limited characters or standard characters. You also have the stamp sort of gacha banners, right? Then you have here your mail system where you grab your mails. You have an in-game news section where you will see all updates regarding the game. You have your bag, your consumables and everything on one place here. You have your settings down below on the right. You have a rankings overview where you can see where you are standing currently. So I'm currently on the top 13% actually. Wow, okay. Wasn't expecting that. All right. Okay, so that's essentially the UI. On the top here, you also have your section. This is where you get to the events, right? You can view all your events here. You have your calendar, your daily, your activities overview, for example, right? Your battle pass is over here. And on the bottom right, you also have a few things. Now, to the content you get here, this is your story mode. Adventure is your further progression story mode. Let's say supplies, you get in-game currencies, trial challenges like frenzy feast. This is like end game content, for example. Cooperative campaign is like a co-op a mode. So yeah, All right, now let's jump into a match. So how do matches and stuff like that actually work? So you have 4 types of characters, right? You have offensive characters, right? You have like, for example, Orihime, she's a support type character, and then you have tactical characters, which are like Byakuya, Kuchugi, for example, right? Then you also have 4 categories. You have slashing characters, which you can see on the icon here, the power slashing sort of icon thing here, right? Then you have frost characters, right? You have strike characters like Chad, for example, and you have spirit characters, right? So these are the different character classifications. Before you jump into a match, you will always see the recommended type on the top left, right? Make sure you set up a team accordingly. If you have a tactical character on board, like for example Byakuya, you will also have a battlefield skill active, which basically gets used if certain conditions are being met, right? So let's actually jump into a gameplay. Alright, so the introduction starts in the beginning of a match and then the match goes on. Now, you do have an auto mode which you can activate on the top here, right? So this is going to activate the skill, for example, you have skills. During a match, you activate skills, and as you can see on the left, the flickering basically allows you to activate the battlefield skill of a character. You can use your normal attack, which looks extremely good, extremely flashy in this game. Again, you're able to utilize different combinations, switch in and out. You're essentially always fighting with a team of 3 members, right? And you're able to switch out your characters. Switching out your characters, if you have, for example, someone like Orihime, will give you a buff as well, temporarily for 15%. You can actually activate, as you can see here, your ultimate if you wanted to from another character. Let's actually go ahead and do so. So this will trigger the ultimate of a specific character. You can then switch back and forth between your units again to actually build your damage up. Now, there is specific rotations you want to keep an eye out for, right? If you're playing a team, say for example like this, the way you want to play this team specifically, first you want to start up with Byakuya, use his technique, right? Then switch over to Ichigo, utilize his technique, and then proc the battlefield skill. Switch over to Orihime, utilize her skill, proc the battlefield skill, and then that's the rotation essentially. Then going back to Byakuya again, and that's going to be the way how you're optimally playing such a team. Now again, quickly flying over this again. So note, there is categories: slash characters like Byakuya, then there is frost characters like, for example, Kaname. Then you have spirit characters like Orihime, and then you have strike characters like Chad, right? You also have 3 different categories, again, full assault characters, tactical characters, and support characters, right? So take note of these, right, whenever we're trying to consider to build a team. Having said that, now let's start building a good team. Now, this team actually, this game actually encourages you to build mono teams. What I mean with that is you see every character has a color, right? So yellow, then you have blue characters, then you have, for example, characters like Chad, for example. If you're going for a mono strike team, for example, right, you want to go with someone like Chad and then choose 2 other strike characters. For a slash team, for example, go with Ichigo, for example, then Byakuya. And as a third option, you could opt in for someone like Yachiru, right? Now, there is also hybrid setups, right? You can also run something like Byakuya. Here is Byakuya with Ichigo as your main DPS, and then alongside that Orihime. Now, Orihime isn't a strike character, she's a spirit character. Nevertheless, she provides valuable buffs, right? Same thing goes for a thrust team. Your main DPS is going to be Ikkaku, right? Your tactical character who provides the battlefield skill is going to be Kaname, right? Which this team will basically lay out the fundamentals of inflicting wounds to your opponents, which cause bleed, right? Which is a status condition. And then you can go with another support character. You could choose to go with Orihime or another support type character. So there is different ways of building actually a good team. Figuring this out early on will help you massively. Now, a good starting team, right? If you're starting and you're free to play, run this team. You want to run, and again, you have the build recommendation, okay? You want to run Shikai Ichigo, right, as your main DPS character. He's going to be a slash character. For support, you want to run Yachiro, right? She's going to be a slash type support character. And then you want to have Rukia Kuchiki as your tactical character. Now, Rukia will provide the battlefield skill. Now, she's able to freeze opponents. If you freeze an opponent and then switch, for example, back to Ichigo, you're going to be able to proc something that's called shattering. So freezing, shattering, right? Which is going to inflict much more damage to your opponent. So that's a team which is going to probably be able to carry you very far in the game. Again, making sure to level up, push your skills and so forth, right? So make sure you're taking all of that into consideration. All right, now let's talk about the banners very quickly. Now, this is something very interesting. You have always something called a limited banner, a limited stamp banner, which is the signature weapon of a character. You have the standard banner, which always is there and never changes or gets additional character over time. And you have the standard weapon, aka stamp banner, right? The limited banner is always going to stay for 15 days. You will get most likely 2 a month, right? So 2 limited SSR characters a month. So currently we have the Bankai Ichigo. The next one is going to be Toshiro, right? Again, the same thing counts towards the limited stamp gacha banner, which is also going to stay for 15 days, right? The standard banner is always going to stay there, right? And you have your designated pool of characters which you're able to draw from this banner, right? Now, there is tickets for a standard banner on the top right here. And then there is different tickets for limited gacha, for limited banners. Now, a keynote here, never ever use your spiritual jade currency on the standard banner. Just don't do it. This is going to significantly slow you down in your progress. Always, if anything, use your jades only for limited banners, right? And that's it. You never want to use them anywhere else. You also have a pity system. After 80 pulls, you are guaranteed your limited character. Same thing goes for the standard character banner. Now the pity systems are separate, right? The limited one will stay on the limited banner and the standard one will stay on the standard banner. Same thing counts towards the stamps. Obviously, they are separate as well to the character ones. Now, these will carry over to the next banner. So if Toshiro drops next, this will carry over to the next banner, which basically means I would essentially need to do 37 pulls more in order to draw a guaranteed limited character. And the same thing counts towards here. All right, now let's talk about the progression system. There is a dedicated progression system in this game. So for starters, you're able to level up your character. You need to acquire these materials. If you press here, for example, you're then going to be led to the place where you're able to acquire these materials. If you have enough, you're able to actually upgrade the character. If you completed the stage already, you can raid it to use quickly your stamina to actually acquire the materials. Next up, you have your weapons, right? So if you equip a weapon to a character, for example, right, and then you're able to also level up your weapon, right? Make sure to level up your weapons to acquire basic stats, right? And you're also able to ascend a weapon, right? If you have multiple copies of a weapon, for example, you're able to ascend it and then making it basically better, increasing the base values of a weapon, right? Or a stamp, so-called, right? Going back, you also have a skill section, right? Make sure you always check out your skills. As you can see, if they can be leveled up, there is a little arrow up here, right? Pressing on one of them will also lead you to the same, acquire materials in order to level up your skills. There is a difference between permanent skills and passive skills. For example, you have passive skills and supporting passive skills as well, right? So that's that. You have a dupe system. If you acquire more copies of a character, you're able to unlock more dupes. Say, for example, you unlock another copy of Byakuya, then you will have an increase of 30% spiritual pressure when using his ultimate, right? So that's going to be nice. And then you have your accessories, which are essentially your stamps, right? Making sure you always run accessories of a type. So as you can see, Blooming Sakura is going to be the set go-to for Byakuya, which basically gives him a set bonus, right? And then there is a what's it called, core stamp, so to speak, which is going to be one of a kind for every character. All right, now game modes. Bro, there is a lot of stuff in this game, which is just crazy. For the game just came out, and there is a lot. So you have a story mode, which with normal, hard, and extreme difficulty, right? Currently, there probably will be a Hellverse difficulty as well later on down the road, but as of now, that's that. You also have a second storyline, which also carries on. As you can see, this gets progressively very hard, right? Now, you also have a supply section. This is where you get all your materials, which you need to level up and ascend your characters, right? You have essential materials and basic materials. Then you have your trial section. Here you will get, for example, materials which you need for passive skills, right? You also have your section where you are able to acquire core stamps and basically your stamps for your characters to build a set. And you're also able to run like specific special sort of weekly bosses. Like 2 times a week you're able to do this one, and this one awards you also with core stamps for specific characters or overall your characters, right? So that's that. Then you have a challenge section. You have something called the Unknown Adventure. Now, anyone coming from a game like Honkai Star Rail will know this. In Honkai Star Rail, there's a very similar sort of thing going on. Now, they did make this here a lot better. I gotta say this. You're basically entering a operation where you're continuously fighting different zones of opponents, and after clearing a zone, you will then unlock specific skills, right? Specific, what's it called? Spirit techs, for example, right? You will unlock these spirit techs, which basically grant you specific buffs over a time, right? And these you can then utilize to make your team even stronger and carry on. After clearing a run of the operation, for example, you also have something called the strategy index. Here you will get some rewards which are always going to be there, and this will reset once a week as well. So make sure to do this. You have your trial tower where you can actually go harder and harder against different opponents, and then you have your cooperative campaign where you play alongside other players to defeat a specific boss and join in on the rankings. And then you have Frenzy Feast, which is going to be the end game content, which is going to be very tough, right? So this is an overall breakdown of the current content we have in the game. All right, now some of the beginner mistakes you definitely want to avoid. Never ever utilize, if you're running low on the spiritual power, never use your jades to just fill up your spiritual power. You never want to do that. Your jades are just too valuable. Always only use these items if you have them, or just wait for the refresh. Trust me, this is going to be better in the long run. Now, another thing is going to be watching out your character summons, right? If you're, for example, currently running the Bankai SSR Limited Ichigo banner, just get 1 copy and that's it. Don't go in there, waste all of your jades to grab like 6 copies of him. It's not worth it, right? Always make sure you check out the character which is currently on the limited banner, right? And then make sure to read the skills and whatever. Make sure you also have the corresponding team to run a character, because there is no point of getting a character if you don't have a good synergy in a team to be able to actually use a character, right? So that's something to watch out for. Also, another thing, never ever use your jades on the standard banner. This is a big no-go. You never want to do that at all, right? So those are going to be one of the a few mistakes you definitely want to avoid early on. Also, another one, if you're running your characters and you want to build them, right? You have your stamps. Don't start wasting your materials to level up these low-level stamps, right? Just get them in the beginning. Maximum use them only, level them only up if you really need to, and then even then only like 1 or 2 free levels max, right? And then try and get around with them until you're further down the road, because the materials which you're going to be using to level these up are not as readily available, right? You need to grind them. So it's going to be being efficient with the usage of your spiritual power versus maximizing what to wear and when to farm. Now, final thoughts. Definitely, in my opinion, probably the best Bleach game we've ever witnessed. Like, literally crazy how good this game looks. The waiting was definitely worthwhile. Considering this is only, in brackets, a mobile game, it is crazy how good it actually turned out to be, right? Now, where you want to focus on early is obviously complete the story, try to progress in your own pace. Don't let yourself get carried away from anyone, right? There is no point of having FOMO, which is fear of missing out, right? You're never going to miss out. Just play the game, have fun, right? Focus on leveling up your account, right? And then with time, you will be able to even finish the harder, tougher content as you progress in the game. Right, and with that being said, I'm gonna conclude the video. Yeah, let me know down below in the comment sections what you think about the game so far, how you're liking it, what are your goals playing this game or achieving in the next couple of days. For me, I'm trying to get to end game content because I like challenging content, right? So that's going to be something I want to focus on. But yeah, as always, thanks for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. Until next time.